I need to call this out. The serpent's seed amongst us is a false doctrine. It is a Jewish myth and a Gnostic myth, and it has bad consequences. I'm going to teach you a little bit about this. I ask some questions. Is the doctrine of the serpent seed a Jewish myth? Well, yes, the serpent seed doctrine, the belief that Cain was the biological offspring of Eve and the serpent, is derived from the Jewish Midrashic texts, specifically developing between 800 AD and 1200 AD. While rooted in ancient literature, it is considered a heterodox reading of Genesis 3 to 4, misinterpretations, and has been revived in modern times to promote white supremacy, notably within the Christian identity theology. What were the Jewish Mishraetic texts specifically developing between 800 AD and 1200 AD? Well, they were spanning the late Geonic and early medieval Rishonim periods, according to religious Jewish myth. These Mishraetic text literature shifted from the verse-by-verse classical exegesis of late antiquity toward a more narrative-driven, homiletical, and anthologized collections. This era saw the compilation of new Medrashim that often reordered older, scattered materials into cohesive collections and organized around weekly Torah portions, parashat, or specific biblical books. Jewish myths. Pseudegraphia. In biblical studies, the term pseudegrapha can refer to assorted collections of Jewish religious works, Jewish myths, that were written between 300 BC and 300 AD, during the time of no open revelation. They are distinguished by Protestants from the Deuterocanonical books, Catholic and Orthodox. Do some pseudegraphia teach the doctrine of the serpent seed? Yes, they do. Do they have any authority? Not at all. Some early Gnostic texts and non-canonical pseudo-epigraphical writings, such as the Gnostic Gospel of Philip, 350 AD, and the teachings from Valentinus, 100 to 160, have been associated with the serpent seed doctrine. The theory suggests Eve mated with the serpent, Satan, to produce Cain. The other theory is that the sons of God mated with the daughters of men, produced Nephilim. There's two branches to this stupid idea that separates people and makes people into non-people. And I have to call this out because it's separating people and making people into worthless beings if they are of the serpent seed. They're not redeemable. Gnostic origins, and who are they? Well, they could be anybody you call serpent seed. You can just make anybody worthless. And that's not what the gospel teaches. Gnostic origins, the concept finds early expression in Gnostic traditions, notably in the teachings of Valentinus, where the serpent was viewed as a manifestation of the eon named Sophia that seduced Eve. All bullshit. This was the Gnostics that Paul had to fight off for the gospel. They were competing with a false gospel, Valentinus or Paul. Who do you want to go with? I'll personally go with the great apostle Paul, not Gnosticism. Is the seed of the serpent doctrine in the books of Enoch? Well, of course. This is the other lie, the Nephilim lie. Yes, the seed of the serpent concept is found in the book First Enoch, specifically identifying the serpent not just as an animal, but as a wicked angelic being known as Gadriel. And the figure is depicted as one of the watchers who led the angels to fall, seduce women, and corrupt humanity, the Nephilim. That's the other theory. The key connections in First Enoch: 1, the identity of the serpent. First Enoch 69:6 equates the serpent in Eden with Gadriel, described as the fallen angel who led Eve astray. 2, fallen angel union. The narrative connects the serpent with the watchers, the fallen angels, the sons of God, which were believers, and it tells us that they were having these angels were having sexual relations with human women. Stupid. Impossible. 3, offspring of corruption. The offspring of the corrupted union are often seen as the seed of the serpent, which some interpretations, though not explicitly in Enoch itself, equate with the giants and the sons of Cain. 2 ways to come to the same conclusion. There's worthless people amongst us. Watch out. Kill them. Who brought wickedness upon the earth? Well, the seed of the serpent is from the Jewish myth and Gnostic Greek philosophy, not from the Bible canon. Is the seed of the serpent doctrine canonical? No. The seed of the serpent doctrine is not considered canonical by mainstream Christianity. It is widely regarded by theologians and by biblical scholars as heretical and false doctrine. Is this doctrine accepted more in Protestant churches than others? Well, if you're looking for where it is found more, it is within the fringe, extremist, and special sectarian groups, like the Way Ministry, that generally identify as Protestants and are associated with Pentecostal identity movements, rather than within the Orthodox Catholic, Orthodox, or evangelical churches. Here is the fruit of the doctrine: separation, hatred, and paranoia of certain people. It causes separation where the gospel of Christ unites all mankind into restoration. Critics argue that this document foments division, fuels racism, which makes it unhealthy and incompatible with Christianity because the belief leads to a sin, hatred. One of Christian apologetics group states, although an idea should not be criticized when it is wrongly applied, it is appropriate to condemn an idea when it logically feeds and leads to sin. Lack of love for your brother. A philosophy, seed of the serpent. A philosophy that teaches that some races or people are universally satanic, seed of the serpent, like the seed of the serpent doctrine teaches. Also, writing on the topic, Reverend John Brisby stated the seed of the serpent doctrine is the hallmark of the most radical hate groups today, whether it involves neo-Nazis, right-wing militias, or one of the many other white supremacist groups. Most of them share this doctrine in common. How do they justify their hatred towards Jews or other races or other people? They believe that these people are not real people at all. Seed of the serpent. It was believed by British Israelite movement. The British Israelite movement introduced a version of the seed of the serpent beginning in the mid-1800s. A small circle of ministers in the United Kingdom first began to develop what they called the seed line doctrine in 1790s. The seed line teaching stated that 2 races of people lived upon the earth: a righteous, pure seed line of people and an unrighteous, impure seed line of people. Daniel Parker, 1781 to 1844, was an early American leader of the Primitive Baptist Church in southern United States and founder of numerous churches in Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Illinois, and Texas. As an elder, Parker led a group which separated from the church and formed the 2 seed in the spirit predestinarian. In 1890, C.A.L. Totten, 1851 to 1908, a former professor of military science at Yale University, began to promote British Israelism. It's good for making wars. Totten began to promote the belief that Anglo-Saxons were destined by God to rule the world. Good luck, all you other races. You're Gentiles now. In the 1890s, C.A. Totten did that. And that'll continue in a part 2 on the revealing the error of the seed of the serpent doctrine and how we need to call it out of our church.